Good morning, everyone. It's still morning. Been very interesting listening in on all your chats and quite fascinated by the Bible study that you had earlier on. Ben, you made a very interesting comment about creation, care, and social justice being very good bed partners. In fact, that's exactly what I would suggest ripple effect is. It's a coming together of creation care and social justice. I used to farm up here in Mid-Devon, where I'm living now, and was involved right at the beginning with the idea of sending cows from dairy farmers' farms, and some of them came from Cornwall as well as Devon and other parts of the southwest, sending them to a project in Uganda where women particularly were suffering from the ravages of Uganda's civil war, left widowed with children to bring up, land availability, but not the capacity to make the best of it. And so our dairy cows went from our farms and ended up in Uganda and made very, very significant difference to the widows in recovering from civil war. And it was one of those cows that actually changed my life very significantly. As part of the transport challenge, one of us, as the dairy farmers that started what is now Ripple Effect, what was Send a Cow, used to travel with the animals to the country of where they were going to be placed. I went and asked to see a cow that had come from my farm. And I was so taken by the change that that cow had brought to people's lives that I decided to come back and sell all my cows and put more time to the whole process of helping people have their lives transformed by new understanding and actually using traditional understanding as well and turning it into a more modern and effective way of utilizing it. So ultimately, I ended up actually working with Send a Cow, now Ripple Effect, building the capacity of our teams across Africa to deliver a much stronger and better and more effective program by learning from the farmers they were working with and bringing the best opportunities that they were creating and spreading them across other farmers, opportunity to other farmers. So that's where I come from, a dairy farmer who ended up being a development worker who's now retired and still very passionate about what we're doing. But creation, care, and social justice are very significant and very comfortable bed partners. One can't really operate fully without the other. So if we could start the slideshow, please, Rosie.
Yeah.
I'll take you through what Ripple Effect now does.
Can you all see that?
Everybody okay with that? Right. Well, we started with a real sense of social justice, sharing what we had with people that were in need. Out of that has grown what is now Ripple Effect. Today, families still face poverty that is extreme, cruel, and worst of all, unnecessary, because given the right tools and right opportunities and right support, people can support themselves, take themselves out of subsistence farming into income-generating opportunities, which enables children to go to school. It enables them to improve their housing. It enables women to take a greater responsibility because we work with men and women together to help them understand that together they're a much greater force than men dominating and women being subservient. So we bring women up to that same level of opportunity wherever we can. However, that poverty is still there, and the knowledge and skills needed for farmers to learn more, grow more, eat more, and sell more can be sort of, I guess, eradicated, almost overcome by the fact there's more and more people to live off the same amount of land. And now the climate crisis is threatening to push millions of people back into that poverty. So we're creating a ripple effect wave of change in rural Africa in the countries where we work. It starts when we bring farmers together in their community with community trainers, and where we have projects already operating, we train experienced farmers to become peer farmers that then share and learn and teach their skills to all the people around them. And we even take them to other parts of the countries which they work to become the drivers of the change. The focus is on practical approaches that help them grow more and sell more, so they can invest in their farms and then in their families' futures. But we don't stop there, because the ripple effect grows, because for every family we work with, at least 3 more families benefit too. Farmers share what they learn with their neighbors and communities. Then those farmers do the same. Soon hundreds and potentially thousands experience the benefits in communities where everyone is included and everyone thrives. It's efficient, effective, and builds a momentum that spreads far beyond our programs. What's interesting is that when we go into a new community, we look for the poorest people who have land access, work with them, and they become the drivers of the change in their own communities. So it's not the better off that drive, it's the poorer that drive, and the better off often benefit because they can learn from the people that are seeing their lives change. Next slide, please, Rosie. So currently we are working, have established country programs in 6 African countries: Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and Zambia. I was privileged to work with 4 of those country programs: Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. And 80% of the ripple effect staff are from these countries, working with and for the communities they live alongside. So this is not people coming in from outside, this is people inside actually expanding their skills and opportunity and making a difference within their own countries. We now have over 30 years experience supporting families in rural Africa to learn more, grow more, eat more, and sell more. Our projects are typically 3 years long, and once families have completed their ripple effect training, they then share what they know and have with their communities, creating a ripple effect across rural Africa. Next slide, please. There are challenges. Erratic weather. We know about that in the UK anyway. Heavy rains, harsh sun, and the unpredictability of that weather and its ability to be extreme. Ben was talking about his holiday in Toulouse. We're beginning to experience it in Europe in big ways. Then there's the whole challenge of increased population needing to live from the same area of land. If enough crops don't grow, many families cannot eat. Traditional ways of farming are no longer as effective. We have to find ways of intensifying the crop growing without necessarily intensifying the climate challenge. So ripple effect works with farmers to learn more, grow more, eat more, and sell more. You can pick that sort of tone up from their land using climate-smart organic techniques. Organic because they have the resources, and it's all about helping them make better use of those resources. Next slide, please. So we train families by adding new and better knowledge to their traditional approaches to farming. Families learn to build productive farms and to adapt to the effects of that climate crisis. And ultimately, their farms will have a climate positive impact. Community trainers and peer farmers share their knowledge with more farmers and communities, so there is a ripple effect of learning. Farmers learn from farmers. Ripple effect helps farmers think about the resources available to them within their community. We then teach the organic agricultural principles and skills they need to integrate these into a sustainable, biodiverse farm without the use of expensive artificial fertilizers, and certainly without the use of genetically modified seeds. There's absolutely no need for them in Africa. So techniques such as water harvesting, so helping, wherever possible, hanging on to water, storing water, but actually just by an intensification of the use of waste material from the farm, and where the animal manure that's available is turned into really good quality compost, building soil fertility, but also building the soil's ability to hold on to its water, is a very significant basic training program that is rolled out right across the program. So that composting is driving the change, but also the processes by which that's doing. So we train people to use all sorts of different techniques. And the lady that you see on the picture in front of you, Gladys Samoit from the Makuma United Women's Group in Kenya, has done an incredibly a job of producing and using those techniques. So you can see in her garden a phenomenal amount of vegetables being used. That has transformed her life. She's able to support her son to have a small transport business. He's got a donkey and a donkey cart and a mobile phone. The mobile phone has completely transformed Africa's ability to communicate to each other. And so he is now carting sugarcane and is earning a living based on his mother's investment in him from her farming. She is a significant income earner and is able to improve her house and do all sorts of other things with the money that she's now getting. But consider also that she is now generating very significant surplus of food, which many other people will benefit from. One of the surprises that I had was in Africa, it was in Kenya, when I discovered they were growing all sorts of vegetables that I didn't recognize. Because most of the time people start to grow things like carrots and beetroot and kales and all the things that we would normally eat, and grow them in quantities that allow them to sell and to help other people also to have enough food. But they were growing these traditional vegetables. And I asked them why they were growing them. And there were two reasons. One is that the soil fertility was so restored that they could now regrow them again. And the other was there's a very, very significant market for them. People wanted to buy them. So we were able to effectively regenerate traditional practice by using a more effective and intensive way of farming. And there is, as I say, there is no artificial fertilizer or sprays being used in this program. There are some very novel, very useful pest control systems. If you take cow urine and mix it with chili and wood ash, it's a very effective pesticide. So if you've got problems in your garden, you might want to find some cow manure and some chilies and some wood ash and make your own pesticide for that process. So all those things go into the training. And we work with people to improve their farms, but in a biodiverse manner. When people begin to generate income, they also begin to generate the potential to have savings and credit schemes. So in all our work and in all our projects, we encourage people to set up small savings groups. They save their own money. They're then able to have access to the savings on a credit and interest basis, which they then use to set up small businesses. They can use them also maybe to pay the school fees, because even though education is free, uniforms and books and everything have to be supplied by the parents or the guardians of the children. So when there's school fees to be paid, sometimes they borrow, and then when they sell their produce, they pay it back. Some of those schemes become very effective, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. You don't hear me talking about cows any longer. What we're doing now is generating people's farming ability to create income that allows them to buy whatever livestock they need. And we have chicken projects where they're replicating, multiplying chickens, where people are creating chickens for food and eggs. We've been working with an organization in Kenya to help the multiplication of a new breed that has been put together that has the ability to operate as a foraging chicken, but also to produce better meat and better eggs. People buy local cows, they use the manure. We're into the recycling process of improving soil fertility. You could say that Send a Cow has become a soil regeneration organization. Could we have the next slide, please? We've seen some amazing transformation in Ethiopia. This is Minota Mita and his wife Tesfalem Banja and daughter Freewat from the southern highlands of Ethiopia. Through the training that Minota received, he realized that there was an irrigation potential from a stream that ran past his farm and other farmers in the area. Before he'd been trained, he said that before training, my money flowed past my land. Now it flows from it. So just simple inspiration techniques. Why don't you bring some of this water onto your land? So the two of them, husband and wife, working together, went from a hopeless subsistence struggle to earning around £800 in their first year, as well as transforming their family nutrition. Very significant improved opportunities and lifestyle for them. You can see what they've grown in the background. You can see how much food they're growing for themselves and the potential to generate significant income. Minota and his wife had inspired at least 10 other farmers around them also to be growing similar crops, all using the same climate smart approaches. Most of them were using the stream as well to irrigate. Minota was then working with traders to buy and transport and sell their produce into the urban areas. So people who had been previously struggling to feed themselves are now feeding many, many people. And there was lots of evidence that during the dry season and the extended dry seasons of Ethiopia, people continue to eat because of all the work that Ripple Effect has done. One thing I would say is that poverty traps entrepreneurs. And Minota is one of those people that when released from poverty, finds that he can now use his entrepreneurial spirit to its full extent. So he was imprisoned in poverty, and now he's released as an entrepreneur. And Ripple Effect releases them to be the creators of their own community ripples. Next slide, please, Rosie. We facilitate women and men to share decisions and responsibilities equally. And that extends the impact of our work across generations and ensures that people with different needs and abilities have the opportunity to learn more, grow more, and sell more. I think one of the most exciting things that came out of the original idea of sending cows to widows in Uganda is the way that it's emancipated women. And we deliberately work with communities using various techniques to get them to have discussions about gender equity and equal opportunities. And it's them that make the decisions to change because of the facilitation process. We don't go in and lecture about gender. We go in and help people understand that equal opportunity is a human right and is socially just. The consequence of that is there are now thousands and thousands of girl children going to school given the same priority as the boy children to do so. So you could say that sending cows has effectively created soil regeneration and social justice with equity for women. Obviously, that will have to continue and will work, but that also spreads across the community when people see the potential effect. So ripple effects local staff help families develop a shared vision for the family. Women and men, girls and boys explore together how working together and for each other benefits them all. We even have men going to the wells to fetch the water. And that's been absolutely fascinating. Men taking on what always has been considered to be women's jobs. But also, we've had the experience of women learning how to plow behind livestock. So it's a real genuine shared process that's going on. So we tend to focus primarily on women because if you start with a woman, you can begin to change the whole family. But we involve the men. We do not marginalize the men. We don't try and marginalize anyone. All our group and community groups are encouraged to bring in the people with social disability, with physical disability, people who have been marginalized by the very fact that they were born into the wrong community are included in the program. So one of the fascinating discoveries of discussions with families and with communities is that people will use language like there is no more love in our community. There is no more love in my family. We were married out of convenience. Now we love each other much more. And those sort of impacts were the sort of impacts that we never thought we would see when we started the program. We started the program to give milk to people to drink. We've ended up working with a program that brings significant change to families and communities. Next slide, please. So if you have income, you have the potential to generate a business. And so we train people in financial and business management. More farmers learn to manage their farm as a business, moving away from subsistence farming to controlling their own futures. They develop profitable micro businesses, cooperatives. Some of them are beginning to get involved in agribusiness, which can access new markets. They become the traders and the inspirers of their community. So once families are eating well and earning enough to send their children to school, we encourage them to think bigger, beyond just food security. As part of their training, they learn money management and enterprise skills so they can access savings and credit services. That's savings and credit services beyond their own small group savings. Yeah, there are some very significant and well-intended and beneficial microcredit organizations. But if you do not prove that you can save, you cannot borrow from these micro organizations. So we build people's capacity to become, to get access to further investment. In this photo that you see, this is Agrippini. She's holding the soap that she's been making and selling for a profit. Remember Gladys I talked to you about from the Makuma United Women's Group? Through their own savings and credit scheme, they now have a pot of money in excess of £3,000 that they can borrow from and repay to with interest. They actually wanted to start to lend their money to the wider community. And that often happens. These people become and can register as a credit association and become like small banks within their community. The funds that they have got can be used for anything. And the credit funds in their savings, they hold on to their individual savings through a record. They can draw their own money out or they can borrow money from the group. It's a fully intended, like a small banking business. But what it does, it builds people's capacity to move on beyond that and start to find investment from banks and microcredit organizations to build even bigger businesses. And they become the drivers of change in their community. Next slide, please, Rosie. So just a quick recap. Ripple Effect works with the most marginalized of communities, widows, orphans, those with disabilities, those who are struggling to feed their family. The whole community can learn and benefit from what these people achieve. Ripple effects, facilitating women and men, sharing knowledge, skills, decisions, and responsibilities equally, extends the impact of the work across generations, enabling people with different needs and abilities to have the opportunity to learn more, grow more, eat more, and sell more. And that's where we come in. Next slide, please. It's interesting to hear from you that your communities are beginning to get involved with some of the work that you're doing in your churches. You've already started some ripple effects, and I hope that you will continue to be able to do that. You might want to extend that and take on the challenge of who is my neighbor. And when that question was asked, who is my neighbor? This is where social justice can be extended right across the world to wherever there are people that are in need. So there are various ways in which you as a church may want to become involved. We have a thing called garden twinning, which is very much like toilet twinning. You as a church or as an individual donate £60, and in return we provide a sustainable wooden plaque to place in your church grounds or in your gardens at home. You get a vegetable growing guide from Charles Dowding, who is our ripple effect no-dig expert. You've probably heard of him if you're in the organic scene. You get some wildflower seeds. You can't eat, well, you can eat some wildflowers, but just some wildflower seeds to add to your garden situation. I'm very much into wild gardening. My garden doesn't get dug up anything like as often as it needs to, but it grows some lovely wildflowers. So your donation of £60 could help a family living in rural Migori in Kenya with the 3 years training in sustainable organic farming. Starting with small kitchen gardens, families can grow enough to eat, set up small businesses, send their children to school, and go after their dreams, their vision. You'll find more about this at the rippleeffect.org.gifts. And so if you're making the donation as part of a church, I think there's a church donation button that you can press to take you into that area. Next slide, please. Your church can then also commit to support our work in rural Africa, both prayerfully and financially. At whatever level you can, we don't ask for any specific levels of giving. You just do what you feel you can do to help. There's also an annual opportunity to virtually meet with the team in Africa to hear directly from them about their challenges and successes, to ask them questions and to pray for this vital work. You will also get about three times a year an update on the work of Ripple Effect, which will give you stories of people whose lives have been changed. The focus of the whole thing is going to be around climate issues. They are issues. One of the challenges is that if we're all going to eat, the whole world will need to adapt to the changes that the climate brings to produce enough food for us to continue to do so. You could even consider that you're making an investment in your own future when you invest in an African farmer growing more food for themselves. Some of it may actually even come back into our country. We only produce enough food for 7 months of the year in the UK. The other food for the other 5 months comes from what we import. And so an investment, it's an investment in your future, in my future, in the African farmer's future. And the challenge of farming is one that I've experienced when I was farming, is that you have to learn to work with the climate, not against it. And we're working with people to help them overcome the challenges of the climate. And that means change. And it means learning new things all the time. And that's what the whole Ripple Effect program is about, learning as we go and then using that learning to benefit the next process of learning. It goes on and it goes on. So last slide. Thank you for listening. And if you want further information, it's all there on the website, the Ripple Effect website, or you can contact Anne Hatton, who I think is in contact with you anyway, and she will continue to provide you support. But it's been great to be able to share with you what has become a passion in my life. And hopefully your passions will continue to broaden and widen and affect so many more people. Well done. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dave. Thank you so much. That was stunning. I am holding on to so many bits. I've been typing away as you've been speaking, and just quite extraordinary, the journey of Ripple Effect. And as you said, what started off as one thing has become another. And your expression of the emancipation of women in Uganda and just what it's led to, and soil fertility and growth. I mean, it's extraordinary, and something you should be rightly proud of. Being part of the foundations of that, and thrilled that God called you into this incredible mission and ministry with these incredible people. Mind blowing. And I'm already thinking about how I can use cow weed, chili, and wood ash to make my own pesticide. I'm very excited by that.
Yeah, there are other ones, but that one's quite amusing.
What's any questions, folks, from around the room? Any feedback, questions, things that people? Andrew, straight on in there, please do.
Well, just to say thank you so much, and to point out what I'm sure others have realised, this is so appropriate for the season of creation theme. Let justice and peace flow, that we're meant to be thinking about. And here's a wonderful way, a practical way of being involved. The Gibner has twinned its garden with the Ripple Effect, and we've done it personally. So I would commend people to do that. It's a simple thing, but it just gives the church that idea that, this is more than just what we're doing locally. It's uniting with the world church. So just thank you so much for the presentation.
Yeah, I have to say the garden twinning, I think, is a great avenue that we need to pursue as a group and as a diocese. Certainly, we have a number of churches who have established community gardens in their churchyards, both to feed local community and to draw people together. And I can see great fruit there.
I think Lavinia's got a question. She's just written one.
Oh, bless you.
What prompted us to change the name? Well, when you explain that your name is not what you do, and when you have to start with the fact that, well, do you send cows? No, we don't. And because of the way that certain media action has somewhat highlighted so-called the problem that cows create in the world through the emission of their wind and whatever else comes from their breath, the cow has become a little bit of a pariah in many senses for wrong reasons. So we felt we needed to be more appropriate in what we called it. And after quite a long deliberation process, we realized what we'd always been talking about was that if you start working with one farmer, you can affect the lives of many farmers. But all that we were doing was dropping and creating ripples. And so it is a very generic name, but it actually describes what we do. Interestingly enough, the whole concept of animal agriculture is very important within East Africa, particularly because it is a major generator of soil fertility. So if you have a cow and you use the manure for composting, you generate far more food for the family, but you can also generate more food for the cow, and it's a virtuous cycle. If in the process that people also plant trees, fruit trees, whatever, there is a lot of evidence suggests that the animal could be the driver of carbon capture, not just the driver of carbon emission. But we're waiting to hear more people when people start to look at proper cycles. Yes. Rather than individual elements of it, we may find that we have a much different approach, much greater approach, much more different approach. So that the name change is something that we talked about for many years and finally got around to achieving. So thank you, Lavinia, for the question.
George.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks so much, David. That's really fantastic. That's just amazing work. I was just thinking when I was listening and watching this that I was wondering how similar the work that your organisation is doing might be with other charities as well. I remember 40 years ago, the first sort of standing order I set up substantially with a charity, an overseas charity, was Intermediate Technology, which was E.F. Schumacher started that up, Small is Beautiful, and then it's now Practical Action, and it's doing something similar, I think, to yourselves, although it deals with sort of smaller scale and meets people where they are, as opposed to sending huge solutions to them. And I can see maybe links with that, and also with permaculture, the ideas of permaculture, and particularly with Charles Downing and so on. And I was also thinking about WaterAid as well. And I was wondering how your charity is maybe distinguished from similar charities, and maybe works with other charities, and also linked to that, perhaps, how big your charity is and when it sort of started. Sorry, those are loads of questions, but I think it's fantastic what you're doing. But yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of similarity with a lot of other organizations are doing. Are we different? We worked with one consultant who was helping us to drive our strategic direction, and she said, "You're unique in the sense that you combine so many things together to achieve the objective." So you could, what I've been really impressed at is the way that we've focused on two areas and brought them together, which is soil regeneration, if you want to simplify it, which a lot of people are doing. But wherever we are teaching soil regenerations, we're working with gender equity. And in particular, the whole sense of men and women working together very much enhances the potential, not just for the generation working together, but for the next generation, where the girl children end up in school and then to go on to become the drivers of change in so many ways. So I remember a young lady came up to introduce me when I was invited to a wedding in Uganda. She came up and introduced herself, and she said, "I'm a lawyer working in human rights in northern Uganda, and if it wasn't for the fact that my family hadn't received a cow, I wouldn't be there." And those sort of generational changes that come. So yeah, I think that was very helpful from that particular consultant who worked with several other organizations to say that it was because we combined so many things together that was even more effective. Other people are going to learn. We should be learning from each other anyway, and we work in partnership with different organizations wherever that makes sense. So,
David, thank you very much. That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Size-wise, we're around about £8 million a year now.
Amazing. Do you have a sense of what it's equated to in, when you talk about more food, so more to eat and more to sell, grow more, eat more, sell more, and then the kind of the credit unions and things that come out. Do you have a sense of its impact, kind of its fiscal impact in country?
Not in the sense of what it does to the gross national product, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what it does to local communities is it begins to lift them, as a community begins to lift them out of that poverty and releases them to affect more and more lives. Yeah. Interestingly enough, that when people are earning more income and can see a future from financial investment or whatever, they tend to have less children. And so it may well be quite a significant assist in bringing populations under control. By helping people to help themselves, they no longer look upon children as being their pension. So no, we don't have. It's interesting in Ethiopia that the Ethiopia government tends to track where income is being generated and often start to improve the roads into those areas. And some of the areas where we've been working have now got significantly improved transport links because of that.
Wow.
And there's one particular project down in the south, in the Southern Highlands, that they went back several years after we ceased funding, to discover that there are now truckloads of vegetables coming out of that community going into the urban areas for sale. So we have to be able to claim a lot of the success there of that community continuing to spread its knowledge and grow more.
Yeah, it certainly makes the sense of ripple effect so very appropriate. Yeah. Thank you. Maggie, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just so impressed at the ripple effect. I mean, yes, it's lovely, and I think it's a good name. And I think the thing alongside all that side of it, I think what you emphasised also was this effect that it has had on respect for teaching. They're teaching themselves to respect each other more. And I think that's the most wonderful thing, you know, that the men are now doing some of the women's jobs and you know, caring for children and things which they've never done before. And this, I think this is tremendous to hear, because this is how people grow, isn't it? And respect is so
Yes.
important.
Somebody asked me once.
And the fact that you're not preaching to them about it is so important as well, which is what has gone on for so many years, hasn't it? It's a different approach altogether.
I would say that we're not the voice piece of God, but we're the heart of God. We're the hands of God.
Amen.
Never intended to set out to be the voice piece, but we wanted to express our Christian faith in our action. Somebody asked me once, what does Sendicate give? And my reply was hard work and dignity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's jolly hard work. I mean, those of you who've got gardens, just imagine upscaling those gardens very significantly because you've got land that you can use and create an income. It's blimmin' hard work.
Yeah.
But you know, we've often seen the same amount of land grow anything up to 3 or 4 times as much food because people are recycling it and managing it properly.
Yeah. And we're not doing that here. You know, in a lot of places.
Well, no, we're not. But the challenge is that, you know, Europe has become food secure using modern technology.
Yeah.
It's creating a surplus. We're all eating because of all that modern technology. If we were to go back and everything was grown organically, we would see a drop in production. But the rest of the world, where they're unsustainably organic, could see a very significant increase in production. So it's a very complex process that we're having to deal with. And you know, British farming is having to change because of the costs of the inputs. Yeah. People in the UK will look upon organic as being expensive. Well, that's because of all the labor costs and all the extra work that has to happen in Africa. Organic is the obvious way to go because they've got the labor and they just need to be able to make more effective use of it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Bless you, David. Thank you so much. I mean, we are all captivated by what we're hearing and just so encouraged and stunning, really stunning. And I can see, I'm thinking there's so many opportunities for us to actually encourage, support and enable working together. I think the garden twinning is a definite, we'll get that out there pretty pronto. So we hope you'll see some response from that. But thank you for coming and sharing so freely of yourself and giving so much of your time to us this morning. Bless you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Bless you. There we are. Applause rippling around the room. There we go. Rosie, what have we got in the way of things coming up and events happening?
Yeah, well, of course, on Saturday, we've got our annual creation care service in the cathedral at 2 o'clock. So everybody's really welcome to come. We're looking forward to that. Saturday, 23rd of September, it's Make Polluters Pay Action Day. This was advertised in the last newsletter. So there's lots of resources on particularly how you can contact your MP about this issue. Christian Aid have got some very good resources. So if you haven't thought about doing something, there's still time to do that. You can still contact your MP. And I know that Duncan and Anne Petty have been very influential in this. So have a think about that. One of our creation care champions, Bridget England, she's asked if we could share information about her event, which she's organising by herself. She's organising a creation care act of worship, which will include prayers, readings and songs. It's going to be on Saturday, the 30th of September at 11 o'clock outside Lloyds Bank in Penzance. So if you're taking a trip down to Penzance, just bear in mind, perhaps you could join Bridget. I know she would appreciate that. You also might have seen on the last newsletter that the Church of England have got a new set of webinars, some of which you might have done before, like commencing Eco Church and progressing with that. But they've got a couple of new webinars in October, and that is about fundraising and funding for environmental projects. So those might be worth signing up to, and you can they're usually recorded so that you can share them afterwards. Just locally, I don't know if everybody has seen about Cornwall Council. They've started they're starting on work on a new strategy on nature recovery and how it should take place across Cornwall. And this is our chance to have our say on it. So it is worthwhile if you can complete the survey. It was in last month's newsletter, but it'll be again there. I recommend doing that. And you know, you can make change by doing these small actions locally. The deadline is 22nd of October. And Ben, I don't know if you want to say about the next creation care gathering in October.
Yep, we are next meeting on October the, I want to say 12th.
You do?
Yoo-hoo! Which is a Thursday evening, and we are meeting at Truro Cathedral together. It's an in-person gathering starting at 7 p.m. and we have access to Gaia, which is this the world suspended in the middle of the cathedral and lit at night. For all creation care champions, we are very glad to pay your entrance to get in. So we'll do that as support and thanks for all the work that you do. You're welcome to bring family members and others. They will need to cover their own costs for access. But we do need to know numbers as a priority. I know many of you have already fed back to Rosie, but if you know of any other numbers or people coming, please let Rosie know and we'll get you booked in. But we're going to have some time gazing upon and enjoying Gaia. You can pay an extra and go for a walk up into the heady heights of the loft of the cathedral and look down at on Earth onto what will be the northern hemisphere, won't it? Thank you. See, I'm just checking that some sort of geographical understanding is in my brain. But that's an extra and we can get that booked in too. And then we're going to have some time together afterwards in the chapter house for refreshments and conversations. So if you can make it, please do. I know it's unusual for us to get together through vehicles and travel because we try hard to save our CO2 emissions and footprints, but it's a great opportunity for us to come together and say hello to one another.
Can I just...
Again, I will be driving down from Bude area, so I'm very happy to fill my vehicle.
Can I just say to that, as it's getting very booked up, we've had to book in the people who we know are wanting to attend. Like Ben said, there is the high level celestial tour, as they call it. I think those places are probably going to be taken up, to be honest. So if people are booking in, say, as of today, probably they would just, well, it'll still be very spectacular and you would want to explore Gaia, but not be able to participate in that higher level tour. And also, we're going to have to be a little bit fluid about timings. There will be emails going out about that because the evening runs from 6 till 9, and getting in all the celestial tours, only 5 at a time, is quite tricky. So if you just watch out for my email about that, and we're Ben and I myself, we haven't had a chance really to talk about it yet, but we'll come up with a cunning plan so it does work as an evening for us all.
As ever, logistically working with the Church of England, it's fun. So, you know, we'll make it work, friends. Patience and grace will make it work. But really looking forward to gathering for that. Anything else we need to bring to the table today, Rosie?
I don't think so, not unless anybody else wants to share anything.
Any other notices or things that people want to bring? Well, as ever, we will, in the next week, be doing the notice sheet related to this gathering. So we'll gather some of the bits from there. We'll include all of the notices we've just shared. Those will be sent out to you to share with those in your community. If you have anything you think, oh, I wish I'd have an opportunity to share that, it's not too late. Just make sure Rosie gets it before the middle of next week, and we can make sure that happens. But it's been great to spend these couple of hours with you. Thank you for making this a priority. Hugely appreciated. David, thank you for inspiring us and just so hugely encouraging what happens when God whispers dreams to people and then they grow beyond our imagination. It's extraordinary what happens when we follow what the boss asks us to do. So thank you. And I'm going to pray and then we'll go on our way. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity and space to share together what's happening across our southwest, our Cornwall, our Diocese of Truro, and today to hear of the impacts of faithful people who heard your call and acted upon it, and just to hear the work of ripple effect. I'm struck by that statement that poverty traps entrepreneurs, and when released from poverty, they're able to use their full entrepreneurial spirit. And just what an extraordinary picture of a cow that provided food, that provided soil nourishment, that provided growth, and then crops, and then money, and then able to lend, and whole communities changed. And we thank you for that absolute miracle, and just the beauty of that. And we ask for more of it, Lord. We dare to ask for more, that this would continue to grow in its work and its influence. Thank you for David and for Anne and the team at Ripple Effect. Thank you for each one of our Creation Care champions, either here today or not, but each pulling in the direction of creation justice, climate justice, human flourishing. Thank you that you are a good, good Father to each one of us. Would you lead us and guide us in the weeks ahead until we see each other again. Bless us in our church communities and all that we do. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, great to see you, friends. Thank you, as ever. The highlight of my month, hanging out with you. It's the best part of my job. And I look forward to seeing you all in person very soon.